All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new recap and review on Ahsoka Episode 7, entitled Dreams and Madness. And this episode was interesting. I thought the last episode was a little weaker compared to the previous two. We did have the introduction of a live-action Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this does pick up where the last one left off. And the beginning was very interesting. There were some familiar faces in this episode. So if you don't want any spoilers, you are in the wrong place, because I am definitely going to cover some of the aspects of the show in this recap and review. But we have Ahsoka, who does finally show up to the same planet that Sabine went to, where Thrawn is basically been holed up with Ezra kind of off in the background on his own. But that isn't where this starts off. This actually starts off with Hera actually being, there's like a tribunal with the New Republic for her insubordination. And they actually address some questions in this scene that people had with the captain that went with them. He actually had done some stuff over in The Mandalorian, and some people were complaining about the timelines, and they kind of cover a little bit of that in this episode. But at the beginning, we have some familiar faces. People were assuming that we would see Anakin again, and we actually do. There's a scene with Ahsoka training on the ship with Anakin giving her some advice as a holocron type thing, hollow figure. And when Hera is being, questioned by the New Republic, she talks about how dangerous and how Thrawn is coming back, but there's one male member she totally belittles during this conversation. And again, this is Disney doing their typical gotta bash on males type of thing. And she ends up putting in her place because coming to her rescue was actually C-3PO. And yes, Anthony Daniels was actually back to play C-3PO in this episode. And it is revealed that their little excursion to go out where they went to go help Ahsoka was actually set up by Princess Leia, which it originally wasn't, but they were able to get that communication to them so that she didn't end up having to be court-martialed. And right after that, Mon Mothma has a conversation with Hera, and she basically tells her, yeah, this Thrawn thing is a real threat, and we need to be ready for the worst, but to expect the best, but be ready for the worst. And I do have a feeling that, well, I don't have a feeling, I know that at the end of this season, there's only one episode left, that Thrawn will be making it back, but I envision everybody will be making it back. And, Baylan is a big question mark still in this episode. We don't know exactly what his intentions are, but we have both him and I think her name is Shin going to look for Ren and Ezra. And at one point, he breaks off with her and says, you go kill him. I have something I need to take care of, basically. And that isn't his path, is what he tells her. Go prove yourself, go kill him, prove yourself. And he tells her that patience is the key. Well, Thrawn ends up finding out where they're at and sends a couple of gunships out there with some stormtroopers, his version of stormtroopers, out there to go help fight all of them. And there's a big fight between Ahsoka and, well, before we get to the fight with Ahsoka ends up getting there finally, and there was a little bit of wonky CGI in this episode, especially when she left the ship and was leaving the ship to get on the planet. There was some really wonky CGI, and same with the creatures that Ezra has been with. There was a few areas of some weird CGI in this episode, but for the most part, it was really good. But she ends up facing off against Baylan again, and he says, you can't defeat me, and she says, perhaps not, and that's when her ship comes with her, I forget the robot's name that she's with, that, basically ends up shooting at him, and they were able to split up so that she could go help Ezra and Ren, and so they get split up, and we don't know where Baylan is after that part. We don't see him again, and, Thrawn questions in this episode where Baylan went. Why is he not with everybody else trying to fight? So Ahsoka shows up, so it's Ahsoka, Shin, you've got Ren, and you have Ezra, and they all fight against all the stormtroopers as well as Shin, and They end up besting them. And in this episode, and you find out in this fight that he's being kind of passive, Ezra is. He's not willing to take a lightsaber. He's not willing to take a blaster. He says all he needs is the Force. And he goes around basically Force pushing everything in this episode. So he never picks up a lightsaber. He never picks up, any type of weapon. And they do end up besting everybody. And at one point, Ahsoka does offer for Shin to come with them, that she can help her, but Shin runs off. And you find out that this was all a ploy by Thrawn himself to basically keep them occupied while they get their cargo ready to be able to take off and leave. So in this next episode, we're going to find out what's going on. We still have a lot of questions about Baylan, and there's just a lot of moving parts that I think are going to be hard to tie up in that final episode. My ultimate prediction for this final episode is that they aren't going to be able to answer all of the questions, and that we're going to be left on a big cliffhanger, not even knowing if this show is going to return. Now, here's what I will say about this program so far. Dave Filoni is a master writer, and for anybody who hasn't been checking this series out, I highly recommend it. Dave Filoni is the guy that has brought Star Wars. I mean, he's the guy who wrote the Clone Wars, and here he is doing a full follow-up to Rebels and Clone Wars, and he's doing a really good job with tying everything together. And so it's going to be very interesting. We did see in this episode that Sabine Wren, was able to use the Force to communicate with Ahsoka, and Ahsoka was a lot happier, more confident in herself when she did confront Baylan. So it was an interesting fight. It was almost a pointless fight. He was there just to basically hold her back, and knew that he needed to give Shin some time to go and defeat them over there without Ahsoka's help, and he tried to hold her up for as long as he could. And that's exactly what Thrawn was doing. And so we're going to see this all come together. We're going to see if Thrawn plans on leaving them all behind. But the very last scene in this episode was Ezra saying, I think I am going to be going back home. And so we're going to see what this next episode has for everybody, what's in store for the fans. But I'm really enjoying the last half of this season a lot. First 3 episodes I wasn't too thrilled with, but it really picked up after that, and it's been very enjoyable. I did like this episode a little bit more than the last. It was great to see Anthony Daniels back as C-3PO, and it was great to see, Hayden Christensen back as Anakin again with some more dialogue. And I'm hoping this last episode is something that will be something remembered for some time to come. This series is definitely the best thing I think that they have put out for Star Wars since Disney took it over. I did like Tales of the Jedi, the animated. If you haven't seen the animated Tales of the Jedi that's on Disney+, check it out. That is my absolute favorite thing that Disney has put together since they took it over. I really enjoyed that a lot. So there was a lot of fan excitement, and I was excited when The Force Awakens, came out, and then we had The Last Jedi, which was utter garbage, and they followed up the best they could with the last movie, but that was a failed trilogy because it was just disjointed, and bringing Rian Johnson in to change everything after that first movie was pointless and didn't help the franchise in any way, because they had a plan with J.J. Abrams, but he didn't want to come back after that first movie, and so they changed everything. But, you can't change that, but they could retcon a lot of stuff with what they're going to do. I do believe they're going to have I do believe that they are going to have Grand Admiral Thrawn as the big bad guy going forward, and will probably tie into that sequel trilogy in one way or another. So we'll see where this all leads, but I don't think that next episode will be the last episode. I do think Ahsoka will be back for a second season for sure. All right, so what did you guys think? I do appreciate the support. We will see you on the next recap.